Hi all, this is Emma from Plan, Inspire, Create, and today I'm going to talk about how to get the most out of journaling. So at its most simple, journaling is just the process of writing down your thoughts or feelings or emotions. It doesn't have to be writing. Some people prefer art journaling where they draw or do lots of different creative activities to express their emotions. But for this video, I'm going to focus mainly on journaling as writing. Now, there are lots of different ways that journaling can help you, and one of the big ways is by getting thoughts out of your head and onto paper. It can really reduce stress and anxiety. If you're like me and you're someone who has lots of thoughts whizzing around your brain all the time, it can really help just to get them out of your head and onto paper. It can help clear your mind so that you can reduce stress and also concentrate on other things. But also, you can get them out without fear of judgment. Sometimes we hold thoughts and feelings in because we're scared to talk to other people and get their reactions to them. Whereas your journal is just for you, so it's a way to express those thoughts and feelings, get them out, but not be worried about any judgment or reactions from other people. Once you've got those thoughts out of your head, another great benefit is that it can help you gain some clarity and start to make sense of your feelings. It might be that when you were trying to hold them all in, they all become a bit of a jumble, or it's too overwhelming to try and make sense of what's in there. Whereas if you get it out onto paper, the process itself can help you do that, but you can also come and look back at it and have some reflection time trying to process what it all means. Journaling is a great tool for self-reflection, and it can really help you get to know yourself better, and from there you can start to think about any changes you might want to make in your life. It can help you focus on positives if you carry out things such as gratitude journaling or capturing positive things in your day, and it also helps preserve memories. It's a real snapshot of where you are at that moment in your life that you can look back on. So I've got some tips that can really help you journal more effectively and get the most out of your journaling practice. And the first is to try and do it at the same time each day. Try and make it a part of your daily routine. And this way you're more likely to keep up with it, and it's more likely to become a habit. If things aren't a habit for us, we really do have to consciously make the effort to do it on a regular basis for it to eventually become a habit. And so by trying to create a routine where you do it at the same time each day, it just takes away some of that work for you, and it will become a part of your daily life much quicker. Some other things you might want to do is set yourself a reminder on your phone for the same time each day. So for example, when I first started journaling, I set a reminder in my phone and it would prompt me in the evening to write in my journal. Now, it might be that I'd already picked up my journal earlier in the day because I had the urge to journal at that time. But if I hadn't done it, it was a prompt to make sure I did it once the evening had come around. The other thing I like to do is keep it somewhere I can see it, because I'm then much more likely to use it than if it's hidden away in a drawer. So I keep it right by my bed. I have a sticker that I created with some Cricut vinyl on the front that says write it out. It encourages me to reach for my journal when I might need it. The other thing to do is to try and make it enjoyable, so it's a nice time for you each day. The first thing I did was pick a nice notebook and decorated the front, because that's just something that encourages me to use things. But what I also try and do is to create a kind of cozy environment for me to sit and have some time just for me. So I like to journal sitting on my bed, and I usually grab a nice warm drink and set it down, and I spend some time cuddled up, sometimes with the dog by me, and I just journal my feelings. I take my time, I have a nice kind of milky drink, I think about things, and it's kind of a nice pocket of time in the day that's just for me. Something to really keep in mind when you're journaling is that it's just for you. This isn't supposed to be seen by anyone else. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be neat, it doesn't matter in what format you get your thoughts out. It really is a place for you to just be honest, and there's no right or wrong way to journal. I've seen people who do kind of fancy spreads in their notebook to journal onto, like watercolours or stickers or different types of decoration, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If that works for you, maybe that's part of the process where you have time to think about things whilst you're decorating and then you write. Perfect. But I just want to say that it doesn't have to be that way for everyone. For me, my journal is a place where I just write. Sometimes it comes out in bullet points, sometimes it's sentences. It's usually not neat. It's just in whatever way the thoughts come to me, and it's more about expression than how it looks, because I am the only one that's going to see it, and I like to just write without really thinking too much. And I find that for me, the process of trying to make it neat and tidy would just interrupt that. But it's each to their own. It's whatever works best for you that makes the actual act of journaling more functional, because don't forget that you can do those other creative things elsewhere. Don't feel you need to write everything. It's not a play-by-play of your day, or it doesn't have to be. If that helps you to think about it in chronological order and kind of include everything, fine. Or if you want to do that because you're preserving memories. But in terms of using it for kind of stress and anxiety and self-reflection, you want to focus on the key things that are taking up space in your mind. What recurring thoughts are you having? What is kind of stuck in there that you think you may need to process? It doesn't have to be written a certain way or even be deep and insightful every time you write in there. Sometimes I pick it up and I just write a few lines about my day and what I've been up to. And that is to keep into the habit of journaling, but perhaps I don't have a big in-depth thing to write about that day, or perhaps I don't really want to get into a big in-depth self-reflection at that time, but I just want my nice little pocket of time for me, and I want to keep up the habit. So don't feel pressure that it always has to be this deep exploration of feelings. However you feel on that day and whatever comes out onto paper is fine. What I try and do is write without really thinking, which I know I've mentioned. I try and just not worry about how things are sounding, punctuation, grammar, those kinds of things. I just try and write as quick as the thoughts are coming out of my head and get it all down on paper. Doesn't matter if I'm repeating things, because that also tells me something, that this is obviously something prominent and important. And it becomes a kind of continuous flow, and sometimes I'm surprised at what comes out onto paper. I think once you start doing this and you just let the thoughts flow out, you'll be surprised sometimes what does come forward. And you'll think, I didn't even realise that thought was in there, but clearly it is, and it's come out, and now I can have a think about that. Which brings me on to my next point, which is be curious about what you've written. It might be that you kind of get your thoughts out onto paper and then you go back through it at the time and you think about what that means, why you've thought that. Or it might be that you come back and do this at another point in time, perhaps on a day where you feel you've got less to write. You can use your journaling time to reflect on an earlier entry, perhaps from the day before. And maybe even keep yourself a list of questions you can use to kind of explore this further. So a lot of why questions. What if I'd done this thing different? How could everything else have been different? Could the scenario have been different under those circumstances? Or think about what you can learn from it. Yes, you can't go back and change it, but what can you learn from this experience, and what might happen differently in the future? Is there anything you want to kind of action as a result? Do you want to set boundaries in certain areas? Perhaps you want to make sure that if something came up in the future, you kind of have a response ready because something kind of surprised you and you weren't ready to respond in that moment. So maybe keep a list of little prompts. You can keep it in a pocket in there, or perhaps on the back page, that you could kind of use to help you reflect on different journal entries. Another thing you can do is use journaling prompts, and I know there are lots and lots of lists of these. Something I did in 2020 was take part in a challenge that I created where I completed a question a day. Each month centred around a different theme, and each day there was a question based around that monthly theme, and I would complete it in my journal. I still have the full list of prompts up on my website, so I'm going to leave the link to that in the description for the video because they can be used anytime, and you don't even necessarily have to do one every day. You can just dip in and out as you feel like it. And the other thing I would say is be kind to yourself during this process, but also in the way you write. So it might be that you need a little bit of time after your journal just to kind of de-stress if it's been particularly emotional, but also you can see in the way that you write if you're being self-critical, and try and challenge that. Be kind to yourself in the way you write and in the way you talk to yourself and about yourself, and journaling can be a good way to kind of pick up on what you're doing there. So I hope this video has given you some good tips on how to both get into journaling and make it a regular habit, but also make it more effective and really get the most out of your journaling practice. If you journal and you have other tips that make it really worthwhile for you, I would love it if you could share them in the comments of this video. And if you could like the video if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing if you're not a subscriber already. If you enjoy my videos, you might want to consider becoming a patron, as my patrons receive an extra exclusive video every month, as well as a whole host of other rewards. I'll leave the link in the description of this video if you want to check it out. And I'll see you next week for another video. Bye!